Yeah, I don't know, man. You ever just feel like life is just catapulting towards some greater purpose?
Pampered fat cats with bloated ego. We are the only DJ crazy enough to tattoo Jackie Brown on his ass.
This is Michael Mann, and I ride with
Extended Clip.
What was that movie where like Kevin Hart has to take care of Bryan Cranston because he's old?
Yes,
yeah,
that would be perfect. That is exactly that type of movie.
like an aging film. Of course, it would be cool if it was us, but to make it more palatable to a mainstream audience, it's like an old Roger Ebert style, like famous film critic, and he gets like Lights, Camera, Jackson.
You're
to
the baby of
every...
the group, so basically, like my friend Eddie, like just like the poster is like light blue, just like the two of you, like you're like leading Eddie by the hand into the theater.
The age gap between Malcolm and I is pretty similar to that of Roger Ebert and Lights, Camera, Jackson.
Yeah,
so
it's basically, yeah, it's cross generational.
And many people have said that Malcolm is the Kevin Hart of the podcast.
Definitely, yeah. Because I got the most money. I'm the most financially successful.
Welcome to Extended Clip. It is episode 459, and I'm one of your hosts, Eddie Averill.
I'm Malcolm Baum.
I'm JT White.
And today we are returning to the realm of David Fincher, one of the favorite directors of the podcast. We've done Zodiac, we've done Social Network, we've done... What else have we done?
Gone Girl,
We've done Gone Girl. But now it is time to do... I would say, like, of the people who are in that kind of vulgar auteurist realm, or at least the art of junkie genre movie online realm, the kind of dark horse favorite for the great David Fincher film, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I know that even like in our own Discord over the years, I've heard that sentiment that this is the favorite of many people, and I think that like within his digital era, it's the closest he's come to some early work like Seven, like in terms of the content and how really just rancid this film gets, how disgusting this film gets at points, and also has a few other things in common with Seven in terms of the research-based investigations. But Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Malcolm, I'm sure you'd seen this 2011 film at least once before, right?
Yeah, I did see it once before. And with this, yeah, what you were saying before, like this is kind of touted as like the aficionados' favorite, kind of like for the ones really doing the film research, log in 5,000 movies on Letterboxd, the people are like, oh, this is actually Fincher's best. And I've never necessarily felt that way, but I think on this screening I definitely kind of connected and kind of got what everyone was talking about. And not to say I disliked this movie on previous watch, but what it was, I was just kind of disarmed by how unpleasant it was on first watch. Maybe found it maybe a little distasteful, or I don't know, maybe I was just kind of clutching my pearls a little bit. And
a little
just
tough to swallow.
Yeah, it was a little tough to swallow, I guess. But I really enjoyed it on this rewatch, and I'm a big fan of like Fincher in the digital era. Like something like Gone Girl I saw when I was in high school, and it blew my mind. And so I feel like I'm always going to be in debt to Fincher, even if... he did ruin my life by releasing Mank. For some reason, that's the movie I'm still the most angry about years later. But
I feel like Mank, even though you said like Gone Girl blew your mind when it came out, I still think that Mank is the hardest swing in any direction that David Fincher has taken you on. Yeah. Like, as much as you love Social Network, Gone Girl, Zodiac, even this movie, I think your distaste for Mank exceeds those, it seems like.
It does at times, just because I feel like anytime Fincher's mentioned, I just have to shout out Mank or give it like the opposite of a shout out.
You need to make sure that people know.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not like other filmmakers.
Hide it. forever.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like other filmmakers who have made like one bad like for hire movie or anything, because it's also not a for hire movie. It's a passion project that's like his worst thing he's ever done. And I just find it very I don't know. It's one of the great torches that you carry, Malcolm, is that you'll never let him live Mank down.
Well, when you think about like going down that line of thought, like, you know, some of his most successful movies, both critically and well, I was going to say financially, but I don't really have those numbers. I have no clue.
We don't care about that on this podcast.
But you know, something like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo or Gone Girl, you know, these are adapted from quote unquote like airport novels. Compared to like something like Mank, which is like deeply personal. It's adapted from his dad's attic. His dad's you know, the bin of papers his dad kept in the attic, and it's kind of like deeply personal, and it's kind of, you know, maybe a little bit like Fincher kind of displaying more of his opinions outside of the visuals of the movie, more baked into like the plot or whatever. And it is, you know, I don't mean to, I want to give him the freedom to do what he wants, but it is, maybe I'm like, you know, maybe just keep reading those airport novels. Maybe that's kind of what I'm more of a fan of in that mode. And I'm not one to tell him what to do, but this is the whole point of the podcast, I guess, is to give
telling people what to do.
Telling people what to do. Exactly. To point fingers, you know, give constructive criticism. Yeah. So
well,
I'll give it.
When you're pointing your finger at something on the screen, you're actually pointing 3 fingers back at David Fincher. So,
True.
you know, yeah.
I engineered it in a way to where it's not pointing back at me, because I've heard this thing about pointing fingers. So I kind of have these tricks with mirrors that I do.
Yeah, the screen is it's a refracting device much more than a reflecting device. I can speak English fine.
That was a tongue twister. That was hard.
I'm going to say it again. It's a refracting device more than a reflecting device. JT, how, even like going into this screening, how does the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo fit into your kind of Fincher view?
Well, I think this was the first Fincher I saw in theaters. I'm pretty certain. I also, like Malcolm, I was similarly jarred by the experience of how nasty this was. Because this movie came out December 21st, 2011, and I was spending Christmas with my family that year, and I went and saw it with, like, I was in high school, and I went with an older cousin, and it was just the two of us. I think on like Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, the rest of the family was doing something, and I was just like super excited to go see this movie. It's a new David Fincher film, and then just like, I don't know, 2 rape scenes pretty early on. It was just like, this is kind of an unpleasant vibe here to bring to the family gathering. But yeah, I don't know. I even at first glance, I definitely liked it. But I've rewatched it a few times since then, and I picked this for the podcast because the trailer was going around like relatively recently. It's a very fun trailer. I mean, it has the title track in there. I mean, the title song in there, right? I like saw that going around. I was in the mood to watch something like, I don't know, very cold and wintry.
Yeah.
And this fit the bill. I don't know. I feel like just as disturbing and also like obviously relevant with the current things going on. Emails coming out about the crimes of the elites. Fincher knows.
True. So this is around Thanksgiving season when this episode's being released. This is not a cousin walk movie. Don't watch this on your iPad.
On your cousin walk?
On the iPad, you know, during the cousin walk.
All right, so this is the... Okay, yeah, it is. Yes, JT's. The tweet with the trailer that was going around. Man, this is an insane fucking trailer. You're right. I only
It's a
watched
great trailer.
I only
It's
watched
one
like
of
the
best
first
trailers.
30 seconds of the trailer, but it's like the feel bad movie of the Christmas season.
Does Fincher edit his own trailers, or
I feel like he definitely has a large portion of creative control over them, but I don't know if he's like the credited editor on them.
True. I mean, he usually doesn't. Work
I mean,
like
he's
that.
dropped some of the elite trailers, like the Social Network.
That's
one.
exactly what I was thinking of with the children's cover.
Oh,
of
the children's
Yeah.
choir
Oh, yeah.
cover of Creep is the greatest
Creep.
thing
It's so
ever.
Honestly, I'll just think about that trailer and just start like going like, "Oh man, what a trailer!"
Oh man. Speaking of one last trailer note before we get into the text of the movie, that trailer was recently shared in our group chat, and Nate Fisher said, "I remember seeing this in the theater when I was seeing either Tree of Life or Shame, and I damn near snail trailed off my chair."
Wow.
I mean, it's a good trailer. Can you blame him?
I mean, that's an endorsement if I've ever heard one. You know,
It is.
gets you more. You know, even gets you more excited than Shame, which there's a lot of snail trails in that movie, right?
Yeah. And I mean, hey, Jessica Chastain in Tree of Life, Hachi Machi.
Yeah.
Speaking about
like
giving mother.
Yeah. If you're into that category, I guess. Yeah.
This is
sure.
yeah, I hate
that's-
this. I hate it so much. Okay, so The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, adapted from the novel of the same name, and already had been made as a film, just after the novel had come out. And I had actually watched this film, the Swedish one, in like a crime fiction class that I took at university. And it was terrible. And it was like such a great endorsement of how good David Fincher is at elevating crappy material, because like I had to be convinced. I was like, all right, I'll at least check out the book. This movie stinks, but I'll check out this book. And the book was also like, whatever. It's just a crime book. It's whatever. But then I watched the David Fincher movie, 4 years ago or so. Finally, it was like my big Fincher blind spot until like back when I was living with JT. Actually, I remember watching this in my little bedroom by myself. And just being pretty blown away by it. Like it just opens up immediately with this like super icy sheen, like straight up like Cobalt 5 gum sheen, and like how it feels to chew Cobalt 5, and then goes into that title sequence with like the chromatic, crazy silver, weird morphing forms over the opening credits to the Immigrant Song cover that Reznor and Ross do. And the Reznor and Ross soundtrack on this one is like very fun, also very cheeky, kind of like between the Immigrant Song cover and like one track playing in the background while Rooney Mara's hardware dealer is wearing a 9 Inch Nails shirt, and I feel like that kind of those two things combined set the template for, yes, this score has a lot of like haunting and like gross music to accompany the content, but it's also like, I don't know, like Fincher's sensibility in this has that junk pulp fun feeling to it, because this is an entertaining movie. We've already said it's a feel bad movie with all of these horrifying things that happen in them, but it's not like you're getting a sledgehammer taken to your face for 2 hours and 40 minutes. That's why it's great, is because it is like such a brilliant aesthetic object, and I think you have to be able to quote unquote have fun with the material like Fincher does here. I know, Malcolm, you said there weren't any laughs in this movie, but when you kind of just
trying to recall, I was like, there's got to be something.
Well, also like Fincher's dry, cynical humor always comes through, even if it's just in certain like shot selections,
True. It's a different type of humor.
Yeah, it's like the Fight Club humor toned down to the 1/1,000,000th degree in terms of subtlety.
What's your favorite joke in this movie?
Oh man, my favorite joke in this movie to me is probably.
Oh wait, I could think of one.
I could think of some things.
It's Rooney Mara's character. Her like shirt that she sleeps in after hooking up with someone is one of those shirts you get from a street vendor in New York that says "fuck you, you fucking fuck" on it.
Yeah.
And like for like a Euro hacker to wear like a tourist trap T-shirt from America is very funny to me, and that's a very Fincher touch too.
Totally. I was thinking of the song, Martin, the revealed villain.
Oh, yeah.
plays
Oh yeah, the
during-
Skarsgård putting on "Sail Away."
Sail Away. Yeah.
That's a good gag.
I was reading about that too, and that was like apparently Daniel Craig played that off his iPod when they were like brainstorming for that scene, and everyone was just cracking up, and they were like, "Yeah, we got to use this."
That's
So
a
like
fun story.
Fincher knows that shit's funny for sure.
It's a fun atmosphere on set for
Well,
something
also
so
it's like
heavy.
creepy too, but it's like it has a little humor to it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
The same
yeah.
way you might uncomfortably laugh at Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs.
Absolutely. Yeah, it strikes a good balance. It's kind of funny, but then it's also kind of unsettling
Yeah.
in equal quadrants.
I also think that just like there's things to laugh at that aren't necessarily jokes, just in terms of the way people live their lives and the kind of dirtbag behavior on display here and there, and like just funny little character beats to me. Like Daniel Craig basically getting canceled for doing libel as a journalist is the opening, inciting incident of this film. And like he goes to a cafe to watch the news and buys a pack of cigarettes and smokes one of them before throwing away the pack. And it looks like he only smokes like half a hit of one, but his interactions with smoking throughout the whole movie are very funny to me because he's like hiding it from the woman who he's having an affair with, like who's, cheating on her husband, Robin Wright. And like his whole, like, I don't know, his social morality and his, like, what he believes is wrong, right and wrong, not in terms of women disappearing, being murdered, and being raped, but in terms of just like the social fabric of everyday life is very funny to me. And I think the oddities of it are why him and Rooney Mara's character get along so well. What's her name again? Lisbeth. Yeah, it's Mikhail and Lisbeth are the characters.
It kind of sounds like his name's Miguel during the movie.
Miguel,
Just a fun note.
It's somewhere between Mikhail Bridges and Miguel the singer.
True.
That's how you have to remember. It's Mikhail.
Well, I think Daniel Craig
That's how you have to remember it, by
True.
the way.
I was going to say Daniel Craig's character, but we know what his name is. It's Mikhail.
Yeah.
I think he's an interesting character because, like, maybe compared to some of what the people he's investigating in Lisbeth, the Rooney Mara character, he kind of has. There's like maybe a bit of kind of flatness to his character. It's a little less, like the Rooney Mara character. She has very defined character traits, or even someone like the old Swedish family being like secret Nazis. Like, I think how his morality is how it's kind of doled out throughout the movie is kind of interesting. And I feel like by the end, you do feel like a lot about him. Whereas like even like 2/3 of the way through the movie, like it is just kind of, you could accuse it of being a little flat, but I just think the way it all works out, like, I don't know, just like, I feel like the strongest emotional reaction we get from him is when he gets the dirt on the other businessman he was trying to expose at the beginning, that he got sued from, and as part of the reason why he goes on this cold case murder investigation for the Christopher Plummer character. And when he gets shafted like with like this old dirt that isn't really relevant anymore, that's the most explosive we see him, despite dealing with just very subject matter that could evoke some strong emotions.
Well, also, I think that some of what you're describing brings out the kind of noir element in this film for me, where Mikhail becomes kind of a classic, doomed, fatalistic, cynical noir character who gets the shit beaten out of him at every turn, Like, in a lot of movies, him getting to the torture dungeon has to be the climax. But I like that he has like a whole other investigative arc after he gets out of that, because he's too deep into the story to let it go, you know? And so he has to be the detective that gets punched around and finishes the movie with a bunch of bandages on his face and whatnot. I also think that part of it that reminds me of a lot of noir characters is that he just messes up. Like, he's good at what he does, but most of his like downfall, or not most, I would say his downfall is a perfect combination of like the text having a cynical view of the rest of the world and him kind of messing up. Like, think about it. The reason why he's getting hit with a libel suit is because the person who is supposed to edit and fact check it is his mistress. And so she doesn't give the proper professional attention to his work because they've been fucking for a long time, and that tore apart his marriage but not hers, as we learn later on. And this is the Robin Wright character I'm talking about, whose accent somewhat mystifies me. But her performance is still quite like moving dramatically. Like, it makes perfect sense within all the moving parts of the drama here. And I think that the Lisbeth characters glances toward her at the end, like as kind of almost the villain of the heartbreak that we get at the very end of the film, is very well played. But regardless, I think that, yeah, this film's fatalism and the journey into depravity and each character's going through the ringer to get through to a truth about a demented world really places this, I would say, more in the tradition of the noir than any of the earlier Finchers, like Seven or his other like detective-like movies like Zodiac, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like even like here, I think leaning into like the cold, crisp, like digital like nature of it, I feel like adds to the like noir elements and makes it a very fun, like, I don't know, like, yeah, like digital noir, because so much of like not only just like the crime solving methods, there are a lot of very cool like Mac displays being recorded, flipping through pictures, but just in general, like the way he's able to bring out the like icy crispness of like the digital feeling, that and like the like Sweden setting too. I feel like Sweden feels like kind of like an Apple store of a country. This all feels like this like chilly alien place that's like bitter and indifferent to you.
It's fucking Bergman's Island set in an Apple store. It's like if Persona was in an Apple store, you know? Yeah.
The MacBook usage just made me think, like, damn, it felt so good to use a MacBook in 2012, 2011.
Yeah. When other PCs felt like you were just downloading, you know, viruses with every click of the button.
Yeah.
And Mac just had that clean OS layout, you know?
Yeah, that OS layout, I feel like it got like it became the standard for like movies and television. If there's like going to be a computer on the screen, it's going to be like Apple, it's going to be MacBook. And you know, it still looks all right. I don't own a MacBook currently. We are recording on a MacBook. You know, shout out to the MacBook Corporation. But but like just watching it then, or looking at a MacBook in 2012 can't be replaced. Like that, there's no better feeling.
You know, it's funny. We were recording on a 2012 MacBook up until very recent, like a couple years ago when it took a shit. Yeah, like many of the episodes of this podcast were recorded on a 2012 MacBook, the downgraded version of what Craig browses on in this film.
It's because we're so influenced by the early 2010s.
Exactly,
you know, we're bringing we're getting on that nostalgia wave.
I'm trying to have
that
iPhoto aesthetic, you know.
Yeah.
And like the green iTunes button, the short-lived green iTunes button.
That's rare. That's for real historians right there.
So after he is let go from the magazine, for which he writes investigative journalism about finance, Daniel Craig's character, Mikhail, takes on this job from Christopher Plummer, who is, an old man who used to run a giant corporation in Sweden, whose, I guess, son now, Martin, is running it, or is it his nephew, Martin?
His nephew.
Martin would be his nephew.
Martin's
Yes. Martin's dad is the
killed.
one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he has him come through to, write his memoir, but then in a Mr. R. Codden style twist is like, I actually want you to investigate my family, not quite me, but my family, because of my grandniece who went missing. And so there we start getting these flashbacks, which also I just love the look of the flashback, where like the rest of the movie is, as we said, icy blue as a movie can possibly be. The flashbacks are just like so warm in tone in comparison to, back before all the trouble started.
I hate, and I don't even use this derogatorily, but you get the PP yellow.
You do get the PP yellow.
The bright yellow tint.
Yeah. Bright yellow looking like PP. But Craig takes the case. And so meanwhile, while Mikhail is doing this, we're intercutting it with scenes of Lisbeth, Rooney Mara's character, who is running a background check on Mikhail as like one of her gigs. It seems like she just kind of here and there will take some sort of cybersecurity gig while doing her own hacking shit in the background. She is also a ward of the state. She has to go to a social welfare officer and check in for the state to kind of approve her lifestyle and that she's not spending money on drugs and that she's gainfully employed, et cetera, et cetera. This takes a turn where in order to live, essentially, she is forced to go along with the wills of her rapist welfare worker. And so in as JT alluded to early on, like 2 scenes interrupted by Daniel Craig doing the early investigating, we see her get sexually assaulted twice, one of which, though, she is using a hidden camera. And then so later on, she comes back and turns the tables on this social worker in one of the craziest scenes ever, where David Fincher intercuts Daniel Craig going iPhoto mode, looking at all of these photos from the disappearance of the grandniece Harriet, with the scene of Lisbeth tying up and torturing and raping her rapist in return with a metal rod while she is playing the footage of him raping her on their Sony camcorder to TV hookup that they got going on. And it is one of the most disgusting and electrifying things of all time. I think it's the ultimate attraction repulsion thing of cinema and of voyeurism of the unthinkably disgusting and immoral. How can you look away at something like this? It's something that you describe to someone and they would say that's deeply unpleasant. I don't want to watch that in a movie. But the combination of Mikhail doing the purely visual investigation that we're doing alongside him through his voyeurism, that mixed with what I just described Lisbeth going through, is just, I don't know. It's, I think, one of Fincher's peaks as a filmmaker.
I don't know. Everything with those scenes kind of clicked into place for me this viewing, because in particular, just how graphic the second one was. I feel like the importance of that made sense in the larger framework of the movie to me, because that's basically what the whole investigation is about, the victimization of so many young women being raped and murdered. And I think that I don't know, adds like some level of intensity to like, I mean, and obviously the images that you're shown of like the photos of the aftermath are pretty intense too. But I think it gives like a level of like extreme, like righteous indignation behind it. And also like the contrast between when he assaults her at first and the second one, I think, is rather intense, where I feel like it makes like the first one, Fincher is kind of framing it in like a way that obscures it all like a lot. I think we see the back of Lisbeth's head, and then like his pants, and like standing is sort of like out of focus, and then in the second like sort of reverse shot, obviously like him or like her being forced to touch him is obscured, and the fact that he obscures it at first like makes it I think again like I don't want to say that's tasteful because that's still like very disturbing and unpleasant, but then the second time he just like the performance with like Lisbeth just screaming like, and the intensity in which she's like tied down is just like so shocking. And I mean, I feel like I love this movie, and I've seen it like I would say maybe 3 or 4 times now, but that is not something that's going to get any less like unpleasant however many times you watch it.
Yeah, and with the second assault, it's also set up in a way where she gets her laptop stolen, right? And there's so many moving parts that it's kind of hard for me to remember. So it's like, did that social welfare worker, did he like set up to get that laptop stolen? Or
I don't think so. I think that was just a discreet thing of her being like disheveled on the subway, and some guy just tried to jack her laptop on the way.
Well, that's a cool scene. You know, we get
it's awesome. Yeah.
I'm always confusing elevators and escalators, but we get a great escalator chase sequence where, you know, kind of chases this guy who steals the laptop up the elevator, and then kind of like slides the backpack down I said elevator.
You did,
escalator.
yeah.
Fuck. God damn it.
Look,
never
I'm
mind.
sure
That scene's not that cool, actually. That scene sucks.
I'm sure at least 30% of our listeners can relate, and tongue twists those as well, because I know that you know what it is in your head and you just say it wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, Craig takes this assignment, or Mikhail takes this assignment, and moves into this little cabin that's very cold, and there's a little tabby cat, like a skinny version of our little Boris, hanging around the grounds and sleeping on his head for warmth, and it's all very adorable until later on.
Yeah.
So he also is able to get a research assistant in, like, that is where the paths of these two main characters converge. It is pretty much perfectly at the midpoint, like an hour and 15 minutes into the movie, that the two people running the company at this point for the Christopher Plummer character, who has now been hospitalized, assign Lisbeth as his research assistant who did his background check, which maybe you could say that's a little too easy or something. Like, I don't know how like that decision was reached, but I like it for the movie as a way to bring them together, you know.
Well, it seems like Lisbeth, you know, she has a reputation as a top researcher and kind of like these behind the door illegal hacking research type scenes. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I guess I'll say it's, you know, she's just top of the class. So they had to get him best of the best.
But once she gets there, the intensity really rackets up, and the paranoia as well. There's a scene where Mikhail just like gets shot at while he's taking a walk, and it's just a very like mysterious thing where he falls through some bushes and is sprinting back. And this is intercut with Lisbeth setting up like a CCTV security system for their little cabin. And again, it's like, even once they've come together as partners on this case, as well as before when they were separate, Fincher intercutting the discrete processes that each character goes through, like, I don't know, the pairings of those scenes are always so perfect. I mean, that one especially, where she's setting up all the cameras as he's rushing back to the cabin, which then climaxes with her nursing him a bit before they finally copulate as a couple. Another just masterful sequence where the intercutting is the entire key to the thing.
Yeah, and with that kind of that format, with the intercutting, even going from like, because sometimes it's like intercutting and then sometimes it's going just like from scene to scene, like let's go to Mikhail, then let's go to Lisbeth. I mean, it just sets up Fincher for some great exterior shots and transition shots, which he's, one of the best of doing those in America, in Hollywood in general. And there's just so many kind of just brief kind of transition exteriors that are just so masterful and so kind of specific, like kind of are not maybe like the obvious choice for a transition. And I like it, just a great display of Fincher's formal mastery.
Yeah, I mean, many of the best images in this movie last for like a second because it's just a quick transition. Like the one of Lisbeth on her motorcycle cutting across one highway as the other highway comes in to make kind of a Y shape. It's just one of the coolest things in the movie, and it's like a half-second transition.
That's exactly the one I was thinking about. It's like it's paired with that, and then a cut to the her at the police station, and it's kind of like a canted angle of her bike, and it's just such a good like canted angle where it's getting the reflection in the motorcycle mirror, just, and like you said, it's just so brief, you blink, you miss it.
Exactly. This strategy of intercutting the discrete activities of Lisbeth and Mikhail reaches its peak at the climax of the movie, where both of them are doing their own individual snooping, one at the corporate research center and one in the house of Martin. And it is right when Lisbeth discovers that Martin is the reason for Harriet's disappearance, that Martin discovers Mikhail in his house and then like lures him into the basement, and that starts Lisbeth's journey over to get him out of the torture dungeon. And I just think that, like, as I said earlier, that dramatic strategy is used so well throughout this movie.
Yeah, and it intercuts kind of at the perfect time where you're spending a lot of time in the torture chamber. You're like, how's Mikhail going to get out of this one? And then just boom, snap, we got Lisbeth with the bludgeon, the weapon,
with the 9 iron,
and that effectively takes it out. But it is like, I love the design of Martin's house, kind of in theme with just like kind of like the cold Swedish. He's got like the all white kitchen with not much decor, and then and it's just kind of like extrapolating that mindset of, it's like, oh yeah, these people love everything all nice and tidy. He's got like the most high tech premium torture dungeon.
The minimalist torture dungeon. Yeah.
It's nice and glossy, and he's got like his perfectly selected music to pair with it, and it is like, this is probably much commented on, but just kind of what JT was getting at earlier, kind of just the aesthetic of Sweden just matches perfectly with Fincher's sensibilities. It really is a match made in heaven, and just like Fincher gets so much out of that visually. Like, this is such a dark, cold, icy movie. This is like kind of like the final boss of like early 2010s Blu-ray Sheen. Would you agree?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is one of the. I'm very like annoyed that I watched this on a file, albeit it was like a very large MKV that was hardly degraded from the Blu-ray disc, but like, this is such Blu-ray Sheen, that torture chamber sequence, though, I mean, first of all, you got to give it up for Stellan Skarsgård as Martin here. His performance really ratchets up in this moment where you're like, oh yeah, he's been here before. This guy's been hanging out in this chamber for decades. And I love how like mystified he is of the prospect of having a man on the meat hook rather than a woman. And he's like, I guess I'll cut his penis off. Like, I don't know. Like, he's like really just like playing with the ideas, and he's like kind of switching between which tools he wants to use. And like, if he was more determined, if he had more experience with de-penising men, like he probably wouldn't have fiddled around so much and would have gotten it done before Lisbeth showed up. But instead, he was diddling and daddling, and that got the best of him because he's a perfectionist. And I could see it in his decor of his home that he's a perfectionist, you know? Like, that house is so perfect. It's the showroom, and it's like it's a mix between like a showroom and like the dollhouse effect of like the ladies' man set, because all of the walls to the outside of the house are just pure glass, you know. It's just windows from floor to ceiling, and so you see into everything perfectly, and Fincher frames that just top to bottom perfectly for the frame, and tracks the camera along the outside so many times where like when Mikhail is creeping around the house, it's so sick. And I don't know, I just find that house to be such a perfect set for this. I mean, like, the morning after Lisbeth and Mikhail fuck, when they're asking for all the corporate paperwork from the two representatives like in charge at this point, that's like the whitest room I've ever seen in my life. Like, and it's just like it's not even like a white wall, it's a window, and it's just a white snowy mountaintop behind them. Like, it's I just really love the dedication to how like in a void of icy snow this film is, you know.
Thinking of the torture sequence, him kind of being like, oh, I've never had a man here before. It is funny because it is like he starts like undressing him, and then he like unzips his pants and he kind of like gives it a little peek, and he's like, I don't know what to do with this. You know what I mean? Like almost kind of like exploring his sexuality, because I guess if you're a torture chamber guy, I guess that's how you explore. And so it's like,
well, he does say he feels himself getting hard, but then he's like, I don't know though. You know, like,
true. Yeah. Kind of like he's exploring like by curiosity. Like he's like, I don't know. But then it's kind of upended with a very, I guess, dark note that his father abused him. So it kind of, maybe I shouldn't even say all this.
You're
stuff.
allowed to joke about it. He killed enough women.
True. Exactly.
And it's fiction.
That's how.
But I love how he's like, I feel myself getting hard, My urges and your urges are not so dissimilar, but mine require more towels.
My God.
Like, saying that your urges require more towels is one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard in my life.
It is like, that's like a common trope that's criticized, right? Like the villain telling the guy his plan, instead of like instead of just killing him like 5 seconds within the capturing, which it's like, if you have that setup, you got to use it, right? Like you can't just kill right away. Like you got to monologue and talk to him. But here
he's not even saying an elaborate plan. Like I love that, like in this reveal, it's just like, yes, he was like killing and torturing all of the other women, like him and his father, but not Harriet. They're like, I don't know about that one. Like, do you know it? Like the brief moment of him feeling like he Craig has actually figured out the information that he wants to know is like a very funny beat within this.
Totally. Yeah. Takes him off his villain monologuing rhythm. He's like, wait, what? I didn't do that. But my thoughts on that, it's like, those are always great dramatic scenes. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's where, like, for those to be really sold, like Skarsgård does here, you kind of ramp up the intensity, but you can't ramp it up too much or, it looks ridiculous. So it is like I don't want to get rid of these great actorly moments, especially when it works so well here in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
And so it's revealed that Martin, the Stellan Skarsgård character, has been killing all these women all these time and is taking up the mantle from his father, who would do the same thing. And most of them were young Jewish women as well. But then he's just like, what, you didn't find out about what actually happened to Harriet? Come on, man. Like, I didn't do that, you know? And so then you realize, oh, there's a whole real third act to come now. You know, this is just like a end of the episode almost. And Fincher did compare this film to police procedural television because it has a 5-act structure, admittedly. Like, he was like, yeah, we wanted to make it like a 3-act movie, but the source material was just way too long, so we settled on making it into like a 5-act structure. And I think that works for this movie. I mean, both times I've watched it, I've like, you know, I'm watching it at home, so I'll pause it maybe once or twice. I think this time, I paused it twice, like every 45 minutes I paused it or whatever, you know. And that's like a very televisual rhythm, you know.
I was thinking the exact same thing, you know, when it kind of, the original mystery, well, it doesn't wrap up, but kind of like the torture chamber stuff, right? Like that feels like a very climax style.
The total crazy bad guy dies, you know, like for those who haven't seen it and are just wondering what happens, Elizabeth then runs him off the road with her motorcycle after she intrudes upon the torture.
True. I mean, Lisbeth gets to do some real heroics, you know, kind of takes over. Like, you know, in comparison to noir, like, you know, she kind of becomes like the hero and even kind of gets like that melancholy ending, you know, that is reserved for kind of like noir protagonist at the end there.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to the very end in a second. I do want to hit the beat, though, of them like taking, that like sidebar mission to London because, Mikhail, as you said earlier, Malcolm, like, when he gets compensated for finishing his work, he is just like, really, that's what you're giving me? Like in terms of his compensation being the dirt on the other businessman who he was trying to take down at the beginning of the movie. And so unsatisfied, he goes back to this mystery and is like, all right, so where is Harriet? And he tracks down the sister of Martin who had been living in London and realizes that she is actually Harriet, you know, living under the alias of Anita. And so then this Anita character gives us this flashback, breakdown of how her father had been, you know, raping her and then she killed him. And Martin saw her do it. So then Martin just starts abusing her. And so like, that's why she basically disappeared herself, was seeing that Martin was still just like hanging around the family, you know? And it's weird because it's like, all right, we did it. You know, we solved the mystery. The world is a horrifying place, as is the result of every noir, is learning just how disgusting the world is and the powers that be are. But then, like, it's this really romantic note of Elizabeth buying him this leather jacket that she sees him like wearing in a picture of him with his daughter, right? And she buys him like a similar leather jacket. And then she goes to give it to him and he's back like arm around Robin Wright, leaving the office, getting ready to go hook up after the Christmas party or whatever, as the CGI snowflakes are falling down. And she just throws it in the dumpster and rides off into the sunset, you know, like the noir badass that she is. And I love that fatalistic ending. It's like we've completely switched perspectives from Mikhail to Lisbeth, from the beginning to the end of the movie. And as you said, Malcolm, she gets the classic fatalistic noir ending.
Yeah, no, I think it kind of boils it down to like, I don't know, you see everything at the world at large sucks. But you're like, oh, okay, well, these two like characters, they kind of they get along in their own fucked up way and kind of like each other. Like that's at least we have that. That's nice. And then you don't even get that. But I also feel like at this point, I mean, it feels like kind of like perfect in terms of just closing out the movie in general. But I know there are 2 other books in the series, and I feel like upon like initial release, like they were definitely like eyeing the possibility of like making more films. I'm not sure, I don't know if either of you know if like that was Fincher's intent. And I know Lisbeth is the main character in all three of the novels. So presumably that's like kind of like the ending works as like a perfect point of like if you're establishing like a broader series as well, like to just sort of like like you intro the world through like the Craig character's story here, but then you can follow her in further journeys. Like I feel like it's sort of like a passing of the baton in a way if they were going to do the other two books.
Well, they did do a sequel, not Fincher, right? But they released an American sequel to this in like 2018, I believe.
Oh, they
Yeah.
did? Okay.
I'm guessing none of us have seen that, right?
I have not, no.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's not that good then.
Well, I mean, they
none of us have
recast
seen
like Lisbeth too. I mean,
Oh,
like
Liz- it
seven
wasn't,
a sequel like 7 years later with like an entirely different cast feels like pretty loose at that point.
Who plays Lisbeth? I'm curious if you have it pulled up.
Yeah, it was a soft reboot and a sequel. Lisbeth was Claire Foy.
Interesting.
okay,
Interesting.
interesting.
The Rooney Mara of the late 2010s.
I was going to say I haven't heard that name in a while.
Yeah,
Claire
since
Foy.
Unsane era.
Which I love. I loved Unsane.
Yeah, she was great.
There's she gives a, not to talk too much Foy, but she gives a great kind of reverse villain monologue in that movie that stuck with me. If you remember,
She's
that.
actually the niece of former point guard Randy Foy.
Really?
No.
I don't really know who Randy Foy is either, to be honest. Who do he play for?
I think the Knicks.
Okay, he's a old fashioned point guard, kind of distributing the ball, pass first, unlike some of these players nowadays.
JT, any final thoughts on the girl with the dragon tattoo and a rating on a scale of 1 to 5 bullets?
I think I'm gonna go 4.5 bullets. I really, really love this movie. It's like up there among my Fincher rankings. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but yeah, I don't know. I just love the feeling of it, like the coldness of like the digital era Fincher. I feel like works so much for like crime stories like this, and I'd say Gone Girl's probably my favorite Fincher, and I feel like just like takes this kind of like feeling. I mean, obviously a whole different flavor of it because it's not like the police procedural, but like I don't know, does the crime stuff just a little bit better. Fincher is a master. Like there's so many just like aspects from a formal level of just being able to compose such amazing sequences like Eddie was talking about with like all the Lisbeth and Mikhail like cross-cutting moments. Something that's like kind of like intercut throughout and I think is like really intelligent. Fincher has like an understanding of a visual language for like space and like a place, like returning to a place. Like the bridge in this really recalled to me the bridge in Polanski's The Ghostwriter, where I think similarly in both films they like visit this like bridge space like 3 times. Like maybe I think a little bit more in Dragon Tattoo, but in the initial like sort of flashback, talking about the quote unquote murder happening, like you have I guess it's from the perspective of the plumber character, like driving a car across the bridge to like try and like find out like what's happened to Harriet, and he's like stopped on there. You go back another time with like Craig when he's investigating and the Skarsgård is like pulled over. They have this conversation when like Plumber gets sick. And then when like you have Harriet finally telling like the flashback of like her like great escape, she is like in the trunk of the car describing like the bridge out of like her childhood, like being such an important thing there. And like he shoots the bridge a little bit different each time, but there's some like visual cues or like camera movements that are like kind of echoes from previous times. And I think all of that is just like incredibly like intelligent stuff. Like he bakes in these ideas of the place even within like film form. Yeah, I don't know. He's a master stylist, and I don't know, is operating at like such an intense like level intellectually, and like doing so that it's just like to the extent that you have like an enjoyable time. Like it's such a fun, just like procedural movie, even if it is exploring a world that is so deeply unpleasant.
I really think he is like just one of the most careful and considerate filmmakers in terms of planning out, from script to screen, and things like the way he uses that bridge so intelligently as like, basically once in every act almost of the film is a great demonstration of that. Malcolm, before I pass it to you, I want to let you know that Randy Foyd never did play for the Knicks.
Okay.
He played for... Well, he was drafted by Boston in the lottery, but traded right away. So he never played for Boston. But he played from 2006 to 2017.
Really? Okay.
Minnesota, Washington, the Clippers, the Jazz, Denver, OKC, and Brooklyn was his final team.
I completely missed this guy. The way, I don't know, just I thought it was going to be like a 80s, 70s era guy just for some reason. But this is... I was watching basketball during those years, but I guess I wasn't watching close enough. I wasn't.
He was all rookie.
Grinding Foyd tape. All rookie?
He was all rookie, and he got it up to 16 a game in his third season on like decent shooting, and then he had one good Denver season too, where he was at like 13 a game off the bench shooting like 40% from three. Like he was an early volume 3-point shooter in like the... Well, Steph Curry was in the league by then, but before the big 2015 Steph explosion.
Is this like the Melo, Chauncey Billups Nuggets? Well, I remember watching that team.
Well, actually, I don't know if he was on the team when Melo was on there, because Melo might have already gone to the Knicks.
Oh, okay.
I think Melo would have already gone to the Knicks by the time he was there, but he was there for he was there for like the passing of the torch into Lob City Clippers. Like he left right as the getting was getting good.
You know who I liked on the Nuggets? Aaron I can't say his last name. Aflalo? Aaron Aflalo.
Homegrown boy, UCLA boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But,
anyway,
I'm going to give a rating for this movie.
You don't want to keep talking about like guys who never averaged more than like 14 points a game in the 2000s?
I mean, it sounded like he was a decent player. It sounded like maybe I should have heard of him, and maybe I had, but, I'll have to go through my archives. But I'm going to give this one 4 bullets. I enjoyed it a lot. I think one part we kind of hit, but maybe, there's some Swedish commentary in this, which I guess I don't know if Fincher's really bringing that much. Well, he is bringing a lot visually, but I'm sure I'd have to imagine that's baked into the text of the book, where, we're kind of uncovering kind of the past of Sweden that it seems like they're trying to cover up with, not trying to cover up, but maybe just trying to move on from.
A little bit of the where were you, Ingmar Bergman, in 1940 kind of accusations.
There's
a lot of Nazis in the movie.
Yeah, a lot of Nazis. I mean, that's a great scene where Craig kind of talks to the one open Nazi photographer who's part of that family, and that's definitely trying to get at Swedish history there, where he's kind of like, I'm the only one who doesn't hide it. At least I'm honest. You know what I mean? And
the last honest Nazi.
Yeah, and like, isn't it kind of shown? Maybe touched on brief. Well, it's whether it's shown or not. It's a lot of these old money Swedes. They got their money by maybe keeping their mouth shut during World War II, or I don't know how that worked, but like, and I feel like the ugliness of that still rears its head in Sweden to this day.
I think it's just like broadly applicable to like all parts of the world. Like, if you go back in terms of like the history of like many American companies, like what was Ford doing in the 40s as well? Like
That's
the
a great
roots
point.
of a lot. I think like a lot of what Fincher covers obviously is like specifically applicable to Sweden, but the types of like elite corruption and perversion, I think, just like cut through and through.
Sure.
So yeah, it's something, you know, even not as a Swedish man, he could still deal with it.
Wait, David Fincher is not Swedish?
I could believe it. You know, he's so technical, right? That's a Swedish attribute.
Sure.
But-
IKEA merchant.
IKEA merchant. You know, also I wanted to say it. You know, it also does feel like a confluence of Social Network and Zodiac, right? You kind of have a lot of the analog kind of investigations in Zodiac, and he brings kind of like some of the bag of tricks from that to this. But then, you know, we also have the digital research going on, and you know, a lot of screen display, and that was going on in the Social Network. And like, there's a lot of great. I think there's a lot of great researching done in this movie, and especially like in the middle of it, you know, some sequences dedicated to it. And I think we even get, you know, kind of like the melding of both, right? Kind of like the scanning of like the film photos that, you know, Mikhail has to track down, and that we get to look at them and zoom in on them on the MacBook. And so it is kind of you know, because I was you know, just with the preciseness and the technical flair that Fincher brings to his movies, I'm just thinking like, wow, it's pretty impressive to go, you know, straight Social Network one year and then this comes out the next year, you know, basically back to back. You'd have to imagine these productions, and kind of I don't know, it is him bringing it in this one. It does kind of feel like a lot of the stuff he's done before, but brought to like a new context and just kind of mixed together, so it feels like something entirely new.
Absolutely. Man, you should work at that rate again too. Just that quickly, you know?
True.
I'm going to go 4.5 bullets on this one. I really like this. I think that it is one of his great digital aesthetic objects. I don't think it's as strong dramatically as Gone Girl, but I think stylistically it's like as good as anything he's ever done. And I think both of the lead performances, as well as Stellan Skarsgård, are just phenomenal. So yeah, this is a great film, and that's you know, I've been talking for about an hour. I don't have much else to say. Mm-hmm. So you can always email us at extendedclippodcast@gmail.com, and you could subscribe on Patreon to get an extra episode every single week. Our last episode on the Patreon was about Role Models, the film by David Wayne. And our next one will be the first of our TV movie series. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.